between Monday, June 14th and Wednesday, June 16th is when this case was built. As I've indicated before, these are unspeakable, horrific, and disturbing homicides that both ADA Lynch and I observed at the scene when we're beginning to build this case with the state police and the Winchester Police Department. Approximately 11:30 on Wednesday, the 4 bodies of the deceased members of this family were located at that 2 Windsong Lane address in Winchester, Massachusetts. The 5th resident of the home, Thomas Mortimer, who's now in custody and charged with these murders, was not there when we made entrance to the home. On Monday, June 14th, Mr. Mortimer's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Mortimer of Avon, Connecticut, were here in Winchester to babysit both Charlotte and Finn, aged 4 and 2, because Laura and Thomas went to work that day. At the end of the work day, Thomas and Laura had a disagreement on the phone. It became argumentative. Thomas came home and the argument between the two continued. We have come to learn that this is just another occasion in marital discord which has occurred between the two for quite some time now. The Mortimers left the house at approximately 7:45 p.m. on Monday to return to their house on Avon, Connecticut. Later that night, Deborah Stone Sawchat called the house to talk to her sister Laura. She called at 5:30 and 6:30 on Monday evening. She then spoke to her mother later that night at approximately 7 o'clock. At 9 o'clock on Monday night, Ragnar Ellen Stone took and finished a phone call, 9 o'clock on Monday. The next day, Deborah tried to reach her sister Laura at the house. She called her cell phone. The cell phone was answered by Thomas Mortimer, which Deborah describes as being highly unusual. At that time, she had a conversation with the defendant, who said it's going to be a while before she can get back to you. The last outgoing call at the house on 2 Windsong Lane was 7:22 a.m. on Tuesday. We now know that Thomas Mortimer called Finn's school to say that he would not be attending school on Tuesday, and he also called his work in the Burlington area to say that he wouldn't be into work because he was sick that day. What we've learned by tracing records of the defendant's cell phone is that the defendant's cell phone was hitting off of cell towers in the Woburn, Wilmington, and West Andover areas until just before 10 o'clock on Tuesday night. Based upon that information that was being received in real time at the scene of the crime yesterday, the state police and local police departments assigned to Andover and Winchester were pursuing this defendant. The next day, on Wednesday, June 16th, Deborah, not having heard from her sister between Tuesday and Wednesday, went to the house to check on the well-being of her sister. When she got there, she saw the 2 vehicles inside of the garage, which was still parked there yesterday at the scene. She looked inside of the home and saw visible blood inside of the home. She also saw the oriental rug, which was usually inside of the front door, had been removed and was not there. Later that day, the defendant's cell phone was located in the area of Route 133 in Andover. Family members at that time were spoken to by law enforcement. They at that time corroborated the fact that there had been ongoing marital discord between this defendant and his wife Laura. Deborah, not having been able to get a hold of her sister Laura, returned back to the house later on Wednesday. She came back with a friend who was a neighbor in the area. They called 911 when they couldn't get into the home. Winchester Fire and medics responded to the scene. They made forced entry into the home. The medics found blood inside of the right entrance to the home, which is next to the garage. As they went further into the home, what was revealed was the first extremely disturbing observation, which was 4-year-old Finn and his mother, both lying in a pool of blood inside of the hallway of that home. They continued into the hallway, which was just inside of the front door in the middle of the home, and there they found the body of Ragnar Ellen Stone just off to the side in the living room, bloodied, obviously dead at that time, and covered by the oriental rug, which had been usually placed in the front hall inside of the front door. At that time, police continued to follow the evidence. They had blood spatter and blood drippings that went up the stairs to the second floor of the home. That blood spatter and that blood trail led them to 2-year-old Charlotte's room, where she was found dead in her crib in a pool of blood. Each one of the 4 decedents were killed by what appears to be a combination of blunt trauma and wounds that were caused by sharp objects. The results of the autopsies are pending, and we will know that within a day or two. At that time, police continued to look throughout the house. Other significant evidence was seized, not the least of which was an extremely important piece of evidence, which were 2 letters, identical letters, that were written by the defendant. He had left one on the coffee table in the living room. He had left another identical letter in typed form in the kitchen area. In this letter, to paraphrase some of his writings, he said, "I did these horrible things. What I've done is extremely selfish and cowardly. I murdered my family." The scene is still being observed by law enforcement. We continue to build the case. The investigation is ongoing and is pending. Apparent weapons have been seized from the home. Indications of attempted suicide by the defendant were also observed within the home. All of this evidence will continue to be mounted and build a case against this defendant. As I've indicated, he will be arraigned tomorrow for these 4 murders by Adrian Lynch in Woburn Superior Court in the morning, and we may provide more details at that time during the course of the arraignment.